Everything I seen was a test. I was born to be a soldier, nevertheless. This is the life that I chose. It's the life that I chose. It's the life that I chose. It's the life that I chose. Yeah, I was born to be a soldier. I was born to be a soldier.
Prayer that the Most High gives us the power in the name of Yahweh Shai. Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Babakasham, Nathanda Noah, Haka, Narapam, Ka, Makalam, Wakam, Madawa, Haka, Nataha, Hamatazariah, Haka, Mahakwaya, Hamaska, Haka, Hatama Allah, Hagarashai, Bahasham Yahushai, the one I English translation for the power. Yahweh, in the name of Yahushai, please give us the power, the power to heal all manner of sickness, and all manner of disease, the power to cleanse the lepers, the power to raise the dead, the power against unclean spirits, to cast them out, in the name of Yahushai. Thank you. So be it. Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Baraklanawa, Mayasha Allah, Mahabaya, Saparia, Barak, Ayanya, Haharya, Ma'ayan, Yaba'a, Isaiah, Ma'ai, Yahweh, Aisha, Shemaiah, Ma'aratazah, Yathan, Namawat, Ragalka, Yanawam, Shamarka, Hana, La'a, Yanawam, Wala'a, Yayashan, Shawama, Yasha'ala, Yahweh, Shamarka, Yahweh, Tazalka, Yamyanka, Yawamam, Hashemah, Yakarka, Wayara, Alayala, Yahweh, Yashamarka, Makal, Right, Yashemah, Napashka, Yahweh, Yashemah, Taza'afka, Wabawa'aka, Psalms 121, English translation. I will lift up my eyes unto the hill.
I will lift up my eyes unto the hill.
From whence cometh my help?
From whence cometh my help?
My help cometh from the Lord.
My help cometh from the Lord.
Which made heaven and earth.
Which made heaven and earth.
He will not suffer thy foot to be moved.
He will not suffer thy foot to be moved.
He that keepeth thee.
He that keepeth thee.
Will not slumber.
Will not slumber.
Behold.
Behold.
He that keepeth Yasha'ala.
He that keepeth Yasha'ala.
Shall neither slumber nor sleep.
Shall neither slumber nor sleep.
The Lord is thy keeper.
The Lord is thy keeper.
The Lord is thy shade.
The Lord is thy shade.
Upon thy right hand.
Upon thy right hand.
The sun shall not smite thee by day.
The sun shall not smite thee by day.
Nor the moon by night.
Nor the moon by night.
The Lord shall preserve thee.
The Lord shall preserve thee
from all evil.
From all evil.
He shall preserve thy soul.
He shall preserve thy soul.
The Lord shall preserve thy going out.
The Lord shall preserve thy going out.
And thy coming in.
And thy coming in.
From this time forth.
From this time forth.
And even forevermore.
And even forevermore.
This is the Isupk, started out at 1 West 425th Street, Harlem, New York in 1969. We're under Commanding General Yohana, here to teach the truth of the Bible to so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American Indians, all the real Israelites according to the scriptures. Now, of course, it being Friday, it's going to be the Lashawan Kodash, or Ancient Hebrew, aka Holy Tongue class for Isupk San Antonio. And in this class, what we do is we go over the Bible and we start to get a better understanding of the Bible through the ancient language that the scriptures provides us. And now, of course, when we read the Bible, we're either reading it in Spanish, reading it in English, reading it in other dialects like Patois, some of the other languages that we have been forced to speak over the past 400 or 500 years. Except now, because we understand that, one, the best translation, if we're going to read it in our slave languages, is going to be the King James Version. But then, two, taking it even a step further, and again, the Isupk under Commanding General Yohana is the highest education on the earth. You may have heard of high school. You may have heard of middle school and elementary. You may have heard of higher education, such as the university, colleges, and such. Ivy League schools. Well, guess what? The Isupk is the highest education on the earth. You understand? Now, all of the Ivy League colleges like Cambridge and Yale and Westminster and places like that, all the original purposes that those highest, or what they consider to be Ivy League, when they say Ivy League, they're talking about a branch of colleges that are well respected amongst all other colleges. Those were all originated to understand the Bible. Cambridge, Westminster, those were all colleges that were about trying to understand the Bible. We're going to go to Deuteronomy 22 and verse 28. Those colleges were set in place to try to say, listen, this is the authority on where to learn this type of knowledge. And it just so happens that in modern days time, those are the same colleges that specialize in things like law, you understand, history, psychology, what they call it, theological thought and schooling and training when dealing with biblical understandings and things. Yeah, theological, that's the thing. You said theology, there you go. The point why I'm bringing this up is the Isupk is a school that goes and cuts through all of the BS that the K through 12 system, that the higher education system tries to distract us with. And it goes exactly to the main point. The point is this. The main point of what the Bible was trying to say was that the lost 12 tribes of the nation of Israel in modern day's time is the so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American Indians. You understand? These are the people that originally spoke the ancient Hebrew. These are the people that the scripture prophesied were going to be put into captivity and to be forced to speak other languages. These are also the same people that are going to awaken in the times before Christ to a culture that always belonged to them, that they are going to take back. And that's exactly what the Isupk's mission is to help our people understand their purpose, their identity, and what it takes to take back an understanding of the Bible that was not given to them by something as simple as a Christian church or a Catholic church. Because those things limit what are taught about understanding the Bible. Now, we're going to go into a specific passage today. As you know, our curriculum is first week of the month, we go into basics. Second week of the month, we start to go into more intermediate things. And then the last 2 weeks of the month, we start to go into specifics, scriptures, breaking down entire scriptures, breaking down vocabulary, and even debunking certain. Last week, we went into a very important topic, which was the definition of hell in the Old Testament. The definition of hell in the Old Testament is not what the Christian church teaches. And if you go to last Friday, 7 days ago, you're going to see a breakdown on how hell on earth is not what the Christian church says, and it is a position or is a situation of desolation for a specific people, according to the Bible. And what we're going to talk about today is something different. It's a very touchy subject. It's a very sensitive subject. So we're going to try to use verbiage that isn't going to trigger any algorithms on Facebook or YouTube or any social media to try to take away what we're trying to say. Okay. In fact, what we're going to do is we're going to educate, and that is the purpose of our job here in the Isupk. And to do so, we need to start off with this verse right here. Deuteronomy chapter 22 and verse 28. Deuteronomy chapter 22 and verse 28. This is a scripture that was brought up in previous arguments and debates, even amongst Israelite teachers. Now, when we say Israelite teachers, the Isupk is the only authorized teaching on the earth when it comes to the Bible. But you have people that are out there that try to take what we teach and to try to run with it and do their own thing for the sake of their own game. The problem with that is that translations get lost in the way, understanding gets lost in the way, and definitions get changed and understood differently along the way. So we have to focus on what the scriptures is talking about right here. All right, and in particular, I see you have the Bible Hub app open, which is good. I want to go to verse 28, where it says, go ahead and read that verse. Yeah. Go ahead and get it in English first, and then we'll go into the Hebrew. But I'm going to write it on the board here so that we can get the definitions of the words that we need for today's class. Right? Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 28. I'm going to have Officer Copy. I'll put that on the screen here so that we can read that in English and the King James translation. And again, we go even further into understanding it when we go into the Hebrew translation. Okay, and the specific Strong's definition that we're going to talk about today mainly is H8610. H8610 is the Hebrew word for the term lay hold, which means to handle or wield. Wield. Side definition, to grasp. Skillfully. All right. Make that full screen. Go ahead. Yeah, click on that verse. This is a very important topic because this is something that applies to our day-to-day lives every single day here, whatever captivity we're in, whether it be America, South America, overseas. This is a very common thing, okay? If I were to try to go ahead and switch it, make the scripture full screen and put me on a minimized screen. Shot. There you go. Go ahead and read that.
Look at Deuteronomy chapter 22 and verse 28.
You have the camera. Logitech. All right, go ahead.
If a man find a damsel that is a virgin.
Okay, there's already a lot going on right here, right? We know what a damsel is, right? Everybody always thinks of the term damsel in distress. You know what I'm saying? Not every woman is in distress, but damsel is a word that represents a woman of marriageable age or a woman that is at the point of maturity. Go ahead.
Which is not betrothed.
Which is not betrothed. And this is a very important thing because in Deuteronomy, it starts to outline the laws of the Bible and it starts to show the course of action that needs to be taken for every specific type of situation. Now, Deuteronomy chapter 22, there's an entire chapter before we get to verse 28. But by the time we get to verse 28, this is a specific example that applies to when a woman is not betrothed. The word betrothed, just to save time, means engaged or spoken for is another modern term that represents the same thing. Betrothed means spoken for or engaged. Make sure to write that in your notes. When it says, if a man find a damsel that is a virgin, we're going to skip the word virgin for now. We're going to come back to that. Which is betrothed, or which is not betrothed. Go ahead.
And lay hold of her. And lie with her.
What is that talking about? Anybody want to answer that? Go ahead. Hold. To lay hold and to lie with her. What is that talking about?
Basically meant to like big game.
Okay.
To the point where y'all can get married.
Okay. Courting. That's yes. I will say that courting. That's a very rushed thing in our modern time. So when you said Mac or spit game, that is very accurate, right? To lay hold on somebody means, just like how we got this definition, H610, it says to wield or handle or to grasp skillfully. And I use the word dexterity there. We're going to get into the Hebrew here in a minute, but the words you want to think of would be wielding or to grasp skillfully. Specifically this definition, because there's multiple words that can mean the same, that can mean something similar, but not quite convey it the same. Spanish is like that. English is like that. Sometimes words have a more austere motive behind the definition. Sometimes it is a little bit more lax. It's a different situation. And so this scripture here specifically uses the term lay hold. and lie with her. And then what happens? Go ahead. Read that, copier.
And they be found.
And they be found, meaning what? And then word gets out, right? Or a Facebook status gets changed, right? Or a Snapchat post gets posted. You know what they say that in modern day terms? They say, "Oh, it's pop out season." Pop out season, or it's sundress season, right? That's what women call it now. They call it sundress season because they dressing nice for somebody that they're dating, doing a picnic. They going out. They looking good for somebody because that springtime where everything is starting to become in abundance and come to life. That's the mentality of it. And in this time of the year, it's very well common that, hell, even humans do the same thing. Start to mate with one another. You understand? And that's why it's saying they be found. Because what? Because word starts to get out. Because it becomes obvious for multiple reasons. What's one of the main things that happens when a woman is found to have been with a man? Go ahead. She gets pregnant. She gets pregnant. Give him a hand. That's absolutely correct. Because what happens 3 or 4 or 5 months after he lies with her and impregnates her, what happens? She gets the baby bump, right? She starts to show. She starts to show that there's proof that a man had got up inside her. Okay? There's no other way that anybody on the planet or ever has been born on the planet has been born of any other way, not even Christ. You understand? We understand that in the UPK. We understand that we all come to the earth the very same way. And so when it says that they be found, that means that there is now evidence that proves that she had actually been with somebody, which we know means marriage, right? And so because that is the case, go to the next verse, Tapiar, in the English.
Verse 29. Then the man that lay with her shall give unto the damsel's father 50 shekels of silver.
Now, without going into the law and breaking down the entire Bible, right? Because again, this topic is about a specific subject. We know that the law has a law about the dowry. A dowry is a payment of appreciation and respect that is given to the father of a woman of maritable age who is then married to a man, right? And so when it's saying 50 shekels of silver, just know that that's no small amount. You understand? This man had raised the daughter to be virtuous, had hopefully raised her to be pure at the time that she got married. Of course, as may or may not be the case in today's time, but back then there would be situations where a woman may be seduced or taken hold of or been coerced to want to lay with the man before the father had given his approval. That is more common nowadays than any other version of it, because nowadays men holler at a girl in middle school, high school, they see her at the dance, they see her at the football game, they're hollering at her, they see her at the parties, and then before you know it, they bumping uglies, right? They're doing that, and he may never even met her father. Well, guess what? There's a scripture that describes what is supposed to happen if that happens, and that's what you're reading right now. What you're reading right now is about when a man gets with a woman without meeting her father first. This is very common. In 2024, it is more common for it to happen like this than it is to happen the other 20 or some odd verses in the scriptures that are before this one in Deuteronomy chapter 22. I hope y'all understand that. Keep going.
Of silver. And she shall be his wife.
Wait, what? Say that again?
And she shall be his wife.
No, they're just going to be boyfriend and girlfriend for a couple months.
And she shall be his wife.
No, this is just a fling. This is not a serious thing.
And she shall be his wife.
No, I thought that, Ariana Grande's song says, "Thank you, next."
And she shall be his, not
No.
his wife.
Because sex is marriage according to the scriptures, whether it be with a father approval or not, whether it be with the wedding ceremony or not. Sex equals marriage. And so if the sex happens before the marriage ceremony, the father does have to be given a, compensation for that. Because we're talking about 20 or so years of him raising a daughter to be a virtuous woman for somebody that's going to then take her away from her home where she had been able to pitch in and help out around the house. She's then going to be somebody that helps out around a whole different home, right? That would be a very common thing to happen when a woman marries off to a man. She would then separate from her family, and all of her duties that pertain to her living under her father's house would then be transferred over to when she's living with that man. That's exactly why the father has to be paid for that thing. It's a sign of respect. It's a cultural thing that goes thousands of years in the past. You can't override that just because you have, you try to bust one off. You can't override that just because you think you could just sleep with whoever you want, whenever you want, and there's not going to be no consequence for it. So when it says, and she shall be his wife, it is because sex is marriage. Now, again, that goes to the definition of the previous verse. But I need to get more on this first. Go ahead.
Because he has humbled her.
He had done what?
He has humbled her.
He had done what?
He has humbled her.
Now, what does humbled mean? I'm writing it on the board right now, but don't look. To humble somebody means to what? What comes to mind when you think of the word humble? Go ahead. Taji, already got anything? You want to try to take a stab at it? That's probably the absolute best definition other than what I wrote right here. Because that would be the next thing that I was about to write. To put into submission. You understand? Now again, that's not saying that it is done in a way that is against her will. It's done in a way that shows dominance, whether it be in the bedroom, whether it be because you're taking the lead of a relationship. It's very masculine to do so, right? So when a man humbles a woman, it's that he's taking lead in front of her. You understand what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Because normally what would happen in a dangerous situation is a man would be the one to stand in front of her if there was danger, separating the danger from her. He would be in the middle of it. He's humbling her by what? By taking charge, by taking the lead. The other definition is to afflict. Now, why would the word humble have to do with affliction? Go ahead. Anybody want to take a guess at that either? Not quite. To humble means to afflict. If you were to get with a woman that's never been with a man before, and you were to lie with her, what is it that you're doing that afflicts her in that sense? What is the affliction there? Let me help you out there. Because you can't do whatever you want anymore. Because you no longer have the freedom to have that hot girl summer, girls gone wild type situation. You know what I'm saying? You no longer have the ability to do everything that you want. You don't have the ability to just do your own thing and not communicate. Even communication is a sacrifice. And now that you have laid with somebody, you then have a responsibility to stay in communication with them, to build something greater than just yourself. What happens with the woman when she gets afflicted by being with somebody is that she loses the selfishness that comes from her private time. You understand? Now, again, the Most High has ordained everything under the sun to be the way that it is. A woman's going to have her time of the month. She's not pregnant, right? But in the time of her affliction, she will be humble. What's another thing that afflicts a woman when she lies with a man? Go ahead. What else comes to mind? Go ahead, Copier. Okay, yeah, I'll take that. What else? What else comes from? Think about Adam and Eve. Think about Adam and Eve. Think about it in the book of Genesis. It's one of the curses from Eve disobeying Adam, right? Affliction also comes from something like pregnancy. It says in like a woman in travail, it says even in birth there will be pain, right? I'm paraphrasing. Giving birth is an affliction. But notice that only pertains to women that are humans. Because a dog will give birth and it's not screaming the whole time that it has 7 puppies. A calf, I'm talking about a full grown, like damn near like a calf or a deer. Think about a deer or a cow. When they give birth, that giant thing coming out of them stands on its 4 legs almost instantly. You know what I'm saying? You would imagine that probably had to be some sort of friction going on there that could lead to affliction. But the thing is that when it comes to women that are humble, they get humbled because when a woman becomes pregnant, she then realizes the responsibility that's then thrusted upon her to take care of that child and all the responsibilities that come from that. She can't go out drinking no more. She can't go smoking no weed no more. She can't go sleeping with anybody else no more. That's affliction as well. That also brings them down low. And then just like you said, it was beautiful you said that because submissive. Put it on the screen if you're going to pull it. Hold that. We're in Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 29. Now I want you to hold that, and let's see what Capiar has got to bring to the table. Come again, my students are also teachers. My students can pull scriptures at any time that they want so that they can help edify and better understand what these scriptures are saying. We're reading it in the Hebrew, right? The word humble is ha-dab-yar. Ha-dab-yar. It also is, there's another term that means Hebrew, it's ainah. That's the word that's used in this particular scripture right here. Go ahead. Make that one full screen, Bubba. Sure.
All of it. It's the book of Genesis chapter 3 and verse 16.
Now, this was after Eve had actually disobeyed Adam and went against God's will of eating of all the fruit of the garden, learning things she was not supposed to learn, right? And because of this, every woman from this point forward has to go through this when she is going to give birth. Go ahead.
Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception.
That what?
And thy conception.
You know how much chemical reactions happen in a woman that's pregnant? There's a lot going on, man. There's a reason why she don't want to talk to nobody some days. There's a reason why she's throwing temper tantrums some days. It's the sorrow that the Most High put on her. It's the pain and anxiety that comes from the build up to the conception, right? It's the throwing up early at 6 a.m. because of morning sickness that comes from being pregnant. See, us as men, we don't have that particular affliction. So when a woman is humble, there are things that come with it that have nothing to do with signing a piece of paper. It has everything to do with a phallus going into her matrix. It's probably the cleanest way I could possibly say it. Go ahead.
I will. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children.
In sorrow thou shalt. That sounds like affliction right here. That sounds like humility right here. Because again, the end result of a lot of these situations you read about in Deuteronomy chapter 22 have to deal with women that are having intercourse. So when you read Deuteronomy chapter 22, understand how important it is for it to be done the right way. But there are specific situations where this happens, where people are not stoned to death. Because if you read Deuteronomy 22, we don't have time to go over it today. We may have to go over it another time. There are times where a woman will do that when she's married and she doesn't cry out for help, and she gets stoned along with the man that's committing the adultery. There are times where a woman may be married and cries out for help, but because the man takes a force on her and does what he does with her, she does not get stoned to death, but the man that took force on her will. So the Bible is fair and the Bible is just. Society is not, because society does not understand that God set these things to be to help us. Go ahead, what you got to say?
No, it's kind of crazy how you brought up the scripture and you was talking about something. That communication. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like this. You brought that. Yeah, no, you're right, because that's actually in the scripture that we pulled. So drop that. I need you to go to, was it more on it? No, that's fine. You can drop it. Go to Deuteronomy chapter 22. Now go back to verse 28. Do we have our books here? Give me the Look up verse. Oh no, you can look it up. Look up verse 2. We need to go back to Deuteronomy 28, because there's another important definition that needs to be brought up. The definition of the word virgin is just as important as the definition of the word take hold. Because virgin, as we know, in modern day times, is talking about somebody that's never laid with somebody before. But that does not mean that that was the definition when we're talking about the Lashon Kodash. So in order to understand that, we have to look at different resources. We look at the Strong's definition. We look at the Webster's dictionary. We'll look at what we consider one of the more accurate Bible dictionaries called the Zondervan's Bible Dictionary. And when we go into the Zondervan's Bible Dictionary, the word virgin is going to give you a better understanding of what that word means. Because understanding the Old Testament will help you understand the New Testament. When you start to read in the Christian church and you start to hear about the virgin birth of Mary, that's where you start getting into some dangerous territory, because they're going off a definition that no longer is accurate according to the scriptures. But when we go into the Old Testament to look at examples of things that happened, that these definitions have a different connotation behind them. All right? Do you have it? I want you to come a little closer, because I want you to be close to the mic. The mic is actually activated on this camera right here. And I'm going to have Officer Taziar read the definition of the word virgin in the Zondervan Bible Dictionary.
Virgin, a young unmarried woman. Second definition, it is also used figuratively to personify a city or a state. A young woman of marriageable age.
That's the one. Read that one again.
A young woman of marriageable age.
This word right here, virgin, is bathawalah. So go ahead.
Whether married or not.
Whether what?
Married or not.
Interesting. So married is a term that ties whether or not this woman is a virgin or not, right? So what I mean by that is, in order to really understand the word virgin, you have to understand what the word marriage is. So the word marriage and virgin are very important to understand what this scripture is saying, first of all. Because first of all, it says a woman of marriageable age, whether married or not, right? whether married or not. Now give me the definitions of the word marriage in the Zondervan Pictorial Bible Dictionary. I'm going to help y'all understand. The definition of the word marriage is actually explained in verse 29. While he's pulling that definition, copy our, go to verse 29 real quick. One second. He's going to read the definition of marriage, and he's going to read you the example of marriage. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Deuteronomy chapter 22 and verse 29.
Uh-huh.
Then the man that lay with her shall give unto the damsel's father 50 shekels of silver,
Uh-huh.
and she shall be his wife.
Wait, she shall be his what?
She shall be his wife.
Because marriage and sex go hand in hand. Again, when it's using the word virgin, it means a woman of marriageable age, whether she is married or not. But what makes sure that she's married is when she lies with a man. I'm going to prove it to you. Read the definition of marriage in the Bible dictionary. Go ahead.
Marriage is an intimate personal union to which a man and woman consent.
You understand? Marriage is not rape. Marriage is when a woman and a man consent in unison to be with each other. Go ahead. Consummated meaning completed. Go ahead.
And continuously nourished by sexual intercourse.
Marriage is completed and continuously nourished through what?
Sexual intercourse.
Now I'm going to give you some stats. 70% of marriages in the United States fail. You know why? Because they are not, read that part again about nourishment.
And continuously nourished by sexual intercourse.
Because you know what they say? They say once you get married, all the sex stops, right? Well, why is it that all these divorces are happening? Because the marriage is not being nourished through the sexual intercourse. That's a part of marriage. In fact, it's such a part of marriage that that's what starts the marriage. It's not a piece of paper. It's you agreeing to lay with each other. And then once you've committed that, then that virgin or woman of marriageable age, whether she is married or not, a virgin is a woman that I would say, and I'm just going to throw this out there, say a woman that's 20 to 26 years old, 28, maybe 34 at the most. Usually I would say that's like the range of a typical virgin, right? 20 to, let's say 21 to like 34, right? Because once you start hitting 34, all your tias and your grandmas, you're like, well, get it? How do you say this in Spanish? Why are you still single?
Estás soltero.
¿Por qué estás soltero, right? Why are you still sola? Why are you still alone, right? Why is it still just you? But if you get married too early, it's, why are you doing this too early? Like, you're not ready for this. But once you hit that age of like 20, 25, 28, that's what the definition according to the Bible is what virgin is. You understand what I'm saying? Y'all following me? Read that last part again. That was the heavy part. This is the definition. Oh, hold on, let me show you. Put this on full screen, copy y'all. Just let you know we're not bull jiving over here. Put this on screen. This is the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary. You also have the full-fledged version, which is called the Pictorial Bible Dictionary. If you want to understand what the words in the Bible are, you need to use a Bible dictionary. Don't use Google, right? Google's not the most accurate way to understand biblical definitions. But the word marriage, according to the Bible, marriage, completed.
Yeah, what they think it is. You can't really even trust that. When you search up Google like health issues.
So now we understand that, right? There's no confusion about that. If you need to ask questions, you have the chat room there that you can ask questions if you want to get more specific into that. But what I need y'all to understand, ladies and gentlemen, is the word virgin means a woman of marriageable age, whether she is married or not. Understand, the word marriage means a woman who has committed physically to a man, spiritually to a man. Because once you tie yourself with that man, you become connected to them. There's a reason why women in this modern day and age are so messed up in the head, because they jump from man to man and they're tying themselves to so many men, and at some point they don't know what to feel anymore, and it destroys them. And every guy that they try to get with after that, it never really quite works out, because the whole planet has fallen into whoredom at this point. We have to, we're good on that. And we have to get away from that in order to understand the solution to these issues that are in our society of today's age. Don't get me wrong, you have children that are born from these situations. Those children grow up and you love them just like any other child. But when you're talking about maximizing the potential of both your life and that child's life, it is, of course, comes down to your ability to choose your partner correctly, your ability to understand situations that happen correctly. Deuteronomy 22 is a chapter of the Bible specifically for women and the punishment that happens to men for dealing with them incorrectly. I cannot stress that enough. We'll go more into that next week. But now go back to Deuteronomy 22, and now we're going to get verse 28 again. I feel like we've been hovering around these scriptures throughout the whole class, but I'm going to show you this, and then I'm going to show you the opposite end of the spectrum, because the whole reason why I bring up this scripture today is because you have people that are in modern day society that do this the incorrect way. And then you have people that try to claim that they're Israelites, that try to say that this means something that it does not mean. I'm going to explain that too. Go ahead and show me Deuteronomy 22 and verse 28 here.
Look at Deuteronomy chapter 22 and verse 28. Which is not betrothed.
Which is not betrothed. Go ahead.
And lay hold on her. And lie with her.
Okay.
And they be found.
Now we understand what the scriptures say now. We've broken down the key words in this. We've broken down the word lay hold, which means to handle skillfully, to spit game, to coerce, to persuade a woman to lie with them, right? Then we go into the definition of what it means for them to get married. Verse 29 goes into that. Now I need to, very quickly here, I'm going to go to give me Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 25. This is every woman's worst nightmare come to life. Deuteronomy 22 and verse 25 is every woman's worst nightmare. The Isupk and the Commander General Yohanan were very pinpoint with understanding the scriptures. We know that when the scripture says to lay hold on her, that means one thing. But with this verse that we go into, viewer discretion is advised, because this is going into a situation that actually means the most negative thing that a man could do to a woman. Go ahead.
Deuteronomy chapter 22 verse 25. Okay? But if a man find and betroth damsel in the field, and the man force her.
Because what?
Force her.
That's the main word right there. You see that? Do that again. Start from the top.
But if a man find a betrothed damsel in the field, and the
Now,
man,
hold on, wait. The verse we read about in 28, the situation was way different from this. First of all, the woman was not betrothed in verse 28, meaning what? This woman had not been in the talking stages with another man. She had not been in the engagement stages, or what we call the courting stages, with another man. But in verse 25, she is already spoken for. This woman has either been in the talking stages with a man or has already been married to that man. All right? That's why when it's saying spoken for, it's treated to the same effect as if she had already been married to him. You understand what I'm saying? Go ahead.
But if a man finds a betrothed damsel in the field, and the man forces
And the man what?
her.
There's a difference. What I wanted to clear up today was that in verse 28, when it says that a man lay hold on her, that is not saying that he is taking her by force. It is saying that he is persuading her with skill, just like the definition actually says, to wield skillfully. But the flip side of the coin in verse 25 is that this man is taking her against her will. This is something that you see very common overseas in the land of what is modern day Iran, Afghanistan, Persia, you know what I'm saying, the Middle East. This is unfortunately something that happens even here in America with people that are unlearned in situations where they take advantage of people that are vulnerable. You understand what I'm saying? Go ahead, Officer Taziar, what do you want to add to that?
Like I said, that takes me to back to how we speak. Comes down to slang again. Comes back to talking street talking. I remember when I was younger, we used to go to the skating rink, and we used to be like, "Yeah, I'm gonna get shorty today." We didn't even go put a bag over it.
Yeah, no, I get that.
So it's like lay hold. It's kind of the same thing. I'm gonna do enough to smack it. I'm gonna say the right things, and I'm gonna get it. So we're getting it. You know what I mean? And then the next verse, one way now. Force, that's different. That's very different.
You know, I was just listening to that reggae song. You know, I don't want to sing it, but it's the one by I'm gonna just have to play some of it. I don't know if I can get in trouble by playing. It's an old reggae song. I know you've heard it. Kevin Little, Turn Me On. You know that song right here? This song right here? Well, when he says in the verse right here, he said, hold on, wait for it. Listen to what he says. I'm a little too far ahead. You're coming home. You're coming home. That does not mean he says, but if you think you're gonna get away from me, you better change your mind. You're coming home with me tonight, right? Does that mean he's gonna force her against her will? No. That means he's not giving up on his pursuit, meaning he's persistent. You know what's crazy? Women actually like that. If a guy is like hollering at them and then they give up like right away, it's like, oh, he's not really trying. He's not, you know what I mean? Like he ain't the one, you know what I'm saying? But even when he says that, I understand that there's no ill intent behind it. Because why? Because, and if you read this in the scriptures, there's scriptures that tell you the same thing, that even the tribe of Benjamin would go out amongst the other tribes to mingle and stuff and to lay hold or skillfully persuade women to get with them. Because remember, the tribe of Benjamin had suffered a long war that dealt with homosexuality, and their numbers were dwindled when they had to fight against all the other tribes of Israel and were almost extinct because of it. So after that, the men that were straight went in to do exactly what he was doing in that music video, trying to holler at the females, trying to build their numbers back up. You know what I'm saying? And there's a reason why that's so spiritual, because the tribe of Benjamin nowadays is one of the most hardcore tribes against homosexual alternative lifestyles, right? But when you look in the scriptures, there's situations where we've learned our lessons. You see what I'm saying? And so in this particular example, when we're reading about how a woman is forcing himself on her, this is something that's used in a lot of movies and shows to draw people's attention to the show because of the shock factor that it could bring to the show, right? If this woman gets forced against her will to lay with somebody, it is, again, one of the most traumatic things that a woman could possibly go through. I've known people out there that have gone through this, and it has fundamentally changed their psyche about everything in life. It's a very serious thing. Because it is a very serious thing, there's a very serious consequence to doing that to somebody. Read the scripture. Verse 25, read that from the top one more time.
But if a man find a betrothed damsel in the field, and the man force her and lie with her,
Go ahead.
then the man only that lay with her shall die.
That the man only that lay with her shall die. Give me verse 26. It's going to further explain why he's the only one that gets killed in this situation.
Verse 26. But unto the damsel thou shalt do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
There is in the damsel no sin worthy of death.
There is no sin worthy of death because the damsel was being forced to do something against her will. Go ahead.
Whereas when a man riseth against his neighbor, and slayeth him, even so is this matter.
Exactly, because in a situation of murder, something as dire as murder, a man that murders somebody out of spite is killed because it justifies the end of his life by doing so. It makes things fair. But in a situation with a woman, it is no less dire. Because when she is being forced to slay with that man, she is being forced to marry that man. So if that man dies, her spiritual connection to him gets severed, which she is then eased from her pain. I can tell you that there are women out there that may have had this happen to them, where when there's justice that is served and that man is either put in prison or ends up dying, there is a peace of mind that comes from that. Because again, sex is marriage. And that woman did not choose to be a part of that marriage. But we know that the definition of a true marriage is when a woman and a man consent to laying together, to consummate their marriage through that laying and taking hold of one another. And so this further disproves the doctrine where some Israelites will try to say that verse 28 is talking about something that is done forcefully, because that is not what that is saying. Verse 25 is giving you an example of what happens when a woman does something, when a man does something against a woman that is against her will, and it is done forcefully. I hope y'all understand that is the difference between the two verses that we just read, but it is only two examples from an entire chapter that specializes in answering your questions about different situations regarding marriage and sex and relationships. Because I tell you right now, if you go to TikTok, you go to Instagram, you go to Facebook, all you see is quotes about relationships and TikTok videos where a woman is supposedly saying something deep, and then you got comment section where all the men and women are arguing against each other, and the women are like, oh, you go, sis, you saying this, and that's right. Well, what's actually right? I'll tell you what's actually right. It's always going to be the scriptures. It's not going to be your own opinion. If your opinion lines up with what the scriptures say, then your opinion may actually have some weight behind it. But if it does not, then you need to look for answers. The Isupk and the Command Journey On is here to give you the answers that you need. If you have any questions about this particular chapter, make sure to send it to Isupk San Antonio's personal messages or direct messages, or post it here in the chat on the live stream. Isupk San Antonio is going to be participating in a conference call tomorrow, so we are going to do our Sabbath service early. We're going to be doing that tonight, probably within the next 15 minutes or so. So we're going to close up today's class. We're going to close it again with this scripture. And this time I want you to get verse 28 in the Hebrew Bible shop. Copy of. Showing on the screen. Try reading it. I read it. Give me verse 28 one more time. In the interlinear version, we're going to read that in the Lashon Kodash. Deuteronomy chapter 22 and verse 28. Haya yamataza'ah ayash na'ira na'ira bathawala ashar la'a arasha wata pasha washaka. You got it on the screen? Washaka. Can you zoom in a little bit? Control plus. I'll read that one more time from the top. Kaya yamataza'a ayash na'ira bathawala ashar la'a arasha wata pasha washaka aima wanamatazawa. Give me verse 29. Wanathan ha'ayash hashaka aima la'abaya na'ai hana'ira chamashyam kasa walawa tahaya la'asha Thachaf, Ashar, Aina, La'a, Yawakal, Shalacha, Kal, Yamyan. Now, give me verse 29 in the English, because I want to finish the class with that particular verse. Go ahead.
Deuteronomy chapter 22 and verse 29. Then the man that lay with her shall give unto the damsel's father 50 shekels of silver.
Mhm.
She shall be his wife.
Now, here's another thing. So-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American women, they suffer from conditions where they grow up without a father. They suffer from conditions where they grow up in broken homes. And for a man to persuade her to lay with him just to throw her away is a very disgraceful thing in the eyes of the Most High. The very least that you could do is to what? Read that last part again of that verse.
Give unto the damsel's father 50 shekels of silver, and she shall be his wife.
And she shall be his wife. Go ahead.
Because he hath humbled her.
Because he hath what? He hath put her into submission. He hath changed her situation, which can cause affliction for her during her pregnancy. He could have brought her to a point where she no longer could go to work and be a manager of a factory or a manager of a restaurant or something like that, because she has to deal with a growing baby that's in her stomach. She has been humbled and brought low. So it is his responsibility to do what? Go ahead.
He may not put her away all his days.
You understand? Because sex is marriage. It's not a paper. It's you committing to a responsibility. And us as men on this planet need to understand that our role on this earth isn't just for you to fulfill your damn lusts. It's not just for you to do things your own way. You have a responsibility to follow through with because of the decisions that you make. So in the Isupk, the Command General Yohana, we build men that understand this premise. We use the Bible as our guidebook in understanding the specifics for different situations. But you're not going to get anywhere else because unfortunately the Christian church does not understand the languages that are spoken of in the Bible. Hebrew, Greek, and Latin are what the Bible was written in, though we read it in different languages today, in many different transliterations today. New International Version, the New King James Version, the Gideon's Version. The King James Version is probably the most reliable English version that you can actually read, but the thing is, we have to go into more specifics, and that is why we have this class. To answer your questions and to really get into the nitty and gritty on what is true and what is not true according to the scriptures and according to the definitions of the original words that were used to write the scriptures. So I'm going to leave it on that. Again, we have our Sabbath service, which is going to begin within the next 20 minutes. So if you're looking for more Isupk San Antonio, you don't need to leave this page. You can stay right here and refresh the page within 20 minutes. And we're going to be locked and loaded, ready to go for the Sabbath service that we're going to do tonight here in San Antonio. According to the Bible in the book of Genesis, the beginning of the day starts when the sun sets. So because the sun is now setting, we can then go ahead and begin our Sabbath service at will from this point on up to, early tomorrow morning, whenever we have the discretion to do so. So we decided that this week we're going to do that tonight. And so tune into that as well. We're going to be getting more Lashon Kodash, ancient Hebrew, with more understanding of the scriptures as we get towards the end of Genesis and moving on into the book of Exodus. With that, this is the Isupk under Commanding General Yohana that started out at 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York in 1969. We're here to teach the truth of the Bible that so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American Indians are the real Israelites according to the scriptures. With that, shalom. Yahweh Bahashem Yahushua Barakatah to all the brothers. Yahweh Shemar Al-Tam Bahashem Yahushua to all the sisters. Shalom.